Hello everybody, it is Shadow Vixen, and today I'm bringing you another Arcane Odyssey video. Today it's going to be another challenge run, and this is probably the hardest one I've done and will be the one I do for quite a while. I mean this sincerely, never do this challenge. This was not fun at all. But let me get down into the basics of this challenge. So, as you can see in the title, I cannot use WASD, and I can't use my arrow keys either, because, well, one, that's cheating, two, my arrow keys have WASD on them, I guess, so that's just not going to work. Now, there are a few points in the game where I am locked and do have to move, and they're honestly inevitable unless I want to hack, which I would rather not get banned, so we're just gonna do WASD as minimally as possible. So for this file, I decided to go with an Ice Conjurer because the weapon skills would give me more mobility than fighting style or magic, and I went with Ice, which it was either Ice or Magma, because I wanted possibly platforms in the water. I wasn't sure if it would be necessary or helpful at all, but I figured it would be better to be safe than sorry, and I ended up going with Ice Conjurer because I think that's generally better synergy than Magma. I could be wrong, but Magma also is slower and I just didn't want to deal with that. Upon loading in, we woke up and were met with our first problem. Now, I mean, pretty literally, I came into this challenge with no preparation. I was just kind of gonna wing it. But when I loaded in, I didn't have any hotbar, it was completely locked for me. I even tried resetting and everything, but this is one of those instances where I would have to use WASD to continue. Now that I've talked to Morden and no longer hotbar locked, you might be wondering how I'm going to move. Well, I can just swing my dagger and it'll inch me forward more and more. So that's what I ended up doing to loot the entirety of Dawn Island. And I went to go make my way over to Mango Isle, and I figured I would just swing my weapon across the bottom of the floor. But that did not work, it didn't let me. Although, once I was at the surface, it would let me. So I tried to just abuse ice platforms and my dagger to just slowly swift my way over there. Except that I changed my mind and didn't even go over there. I am looking back on my recording, and honestly, I don't know why I didn't. But whatever, I guess. So now we're making our way over to Redwake, and I kid you not, I almost starved to death making my way over there. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it, but with just a couple hunger left, I was able to barely make it there and defeat some jaw pirates. I went to go speak with our friend Estrid, and surprisingly, one of the most annoying things in this run is not going to be having to use my sword skills to get everywhere. It's freaking doors. I don't know why this is a thing, but it's like an invisible wall when you're attacking to get through a door. So sometimes I'll have to like jump, but sometimes that doesn't even work. Later on I try to use sword skills and sometimes that doesn't even work. I don't know why doors have to be this difficult, but we're just gonna try and do our best. After resting up and spending 5 minutes getting through a door, I went to go continue to do the Redwake quests as normal, except them just taking an hour to complete. But eventually I reached my max level for fighting Shura, which was 11, and it was kind of a funny way getting over there. I had no intention of riding a crate to get over there, but I mean, it was a little annoying to control it, but it was definitely faster than using my magic. Now I know this challenge is going to be definitely more focused on my battles, like most of my other ones, because, well, I'm sure you're curious to see how I fight Calvis with not moving. And, well, I was too at this point, honestly. I like I said, I have no plan going into any of this. But right now I'm just going to shut up and let you watch my fight with Shura, which took me 2 tries. Is now a bad time to mention I've never been good at blocking or parrying? If this challenge wasn't going to be hard enough, my literal own skill issue would make it harder. Now, since me and Shura killed each other, I had to travel all the way back to his island. We talked and then I reset just to get back to Redwake quickly. When I got back, I went to go speak to the chief and I bought myself a sailboat, and that was the end of Redwake, and it was time to go on to Frostmill. Now, another problem that's going to be with this challenge, I can now sail with a boat, but now I have to line up very carefully where my boat goes because I can't use WASD to control it. Thankfully, making my way over to Frostmill, I had some pretty good aim and got myself there. Now, from here, fishing is going to become a lot more common with me because, granted, it's not a great way to gain experience. It's one of the easiest ways to gain experience, especially earlier on, but I do fish for most of this challenge, so I thought it'd be funny to just include the fish number along when I finish an area. For the main part here of Frostmill, I don't really do anything special. I just do any quests that I can and then go to defeat Iris, which I'm just going to cut to now, and it took me 2 tries to defeat her as well. After talking to her, it was just a matter of getting myself to level 40 before heading over to the stepstones, which included a bunch of fishing and doing a bunch of quests. One of them included me doing the cargo quest, which, my god, I am not doing any more cargo quests after that. But I'm not going to bore you too much with all of the little details of me swinging my weapon and fishing everywhere. So, bam, level 40, let's head over to the stepstones. From here, I went to go speak to Ren and slowly and painfully climb my way up the stepstones. I grabbed the secret on my process way up there and continued to progress the story and do some other side quests there. Now, as you remember from my last challenge, it was a hard point and it's no different from this challenge. Since I can't control the boat and it spawns in a set location, this is another area that I will need some help in. So I got my friend to kind of fly me everywhere. They didn't help me fight, I swear. But again, just like the first 2 islands, most of this is just going to be filler, so I'm just going to take us straight to our first kind of main fight here. Arcane Vista, I think that's his name, and show you the duel with him. Yeah, who am I kidding? I'm not actually gonna fight him. I just ended up choosing him with an explosion spell and got the XP that way. And then it was just time for me to go on to Elas, which took me only 1 attempt, surprisingly. This is going better than I expected.
Holy crap, I did that first try!
I was honestly pretty surprised I did beat him first try without having to block or anything like that. Don't worry, later on I do actually make an attempt to block more. Now this is one of those points in the run where I just got kind of lazy, and sure, I probably could have killed him myself a couple of times, but it took us like 20 tries just for me to get these scimitars, which I was after. But if it makes you feel better, that's the only item I got out of all 20. Theoretically, I could have gotten it myself. I was just trying to save some time. If you want to say, oh, this run is invalid, whatever. I don't care. I'm just doing this for fun and to torture myself, so deal with it. Calling it quits there, I logged on the next day feeling honestly kind of concerned for the next boss, General Argos. I wasn't really sure how I would defeat him. Sure, he doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it will add up over time because he has 3,000 health in 3 phases. Especially his grabbing attack, or his attack that sucks you in, it could destroy my HP and I would not be able to escape without time to not have a lot of damage dealt to me. So with that in mind, I had no other choice but to just level up as much as I could, because as far as I was aware, all the bugs to cheese him have been patched, or at least so I was told. So I would have to fight him legit. But let's take a break on that and let's do my fight with Sternix quick. Yeah, so for some reason he just completely bugged, and looking back on it, I kind of wish I didn't just take this for granted and still actually fought him, but I already died like 3 times prior to this and had to travel all the way back, so I was probably pretty frustrated. So I just took what win I could get and moved on, although I do wish I actually fought him for real and defeated him. After that, I proceeded to just do a couple more things to get XP, including heading over to Sandfall to get some exploration tasks, which I even got myself a cannon spell, which I thought would be pretty cool if I could just hang on to it to transfer it to my other file, but I figured I would use it if I thought I would need it later on. Other than that, there was just a few more quests allowed for me to do once I got high enough level, and then it was just time for me to head to Fort Talos. Well, there was a hiccup getting over there, but I still made it over. And remember the thing about the doors earlier where I was struggling to open them? That includes the trapdoors as well. And I kid you not, I was ready to punch my screen. If there was the worst possible part about this challenge, it was probably Fort Talos. In the last challenge, the gaps in the boards were the hardest problem. And this one, it was the trapdoors. Now, I don't know if I could have done this completely on my own if I just kept going at it, but I just got a friend to come over and open the trapdoors for me as I got close to them. Because if I could, who knows, maybe I'd be here for like 2 hours trying to open some trap doors. But either way, after still what took about an hour, I got through the dungeon and it was time for me to face Argos. I didn't really have a plan coming into this fight because I could not cheese him, but that's what I was told. I could not cheese him, except that you can. after defeating Argos, it was time for me to escape for Talos, except that I am at a time limit. Now, I'm sure most of you know this, and then you just gotta escape in time. Except I'm just not quite fast enough. I reset and die a couple of times, and I've gotten close a few, but with what I had, I just couldn't get there. I equipped my stuff with the max agility to get as far as I can and as much intensity as I could to reduce the cooldown, and I just couldn't escape. Eventually I had a friend come on who gave me some slightly better gear in terms of those aspects, and it did give me just enough to escape. So I could have been able to do this myself because this was all gear for my level. I just came in underprepared. And, well, yeah, that's obviously on me. But it goes to show that this is technically possible as long as you're prepared for it. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Crystal for helping me. I made my way back to Sailor's Lodge and bought myself dual old katanas to use in the meantime in place of scimitars, because I figured it would be better to have 2 movement skills. Except it only lets me use one or the other. But it was still worth it because it does grant more distance compared to our katana, and I prefer it over the mace anyway. Next I made my way over to Frostmill to fish for a couple levels until I honestly just got bored of it. And then I decided to go do our quests over at Munera, and logging on the next day I figured it was time to head over to Ravenna. I proceeded to do the story just as normal up to the kidnappers while also doing the thermal quest along the way. From there I proceeded to do a lot of cooking and fishing for experience, which brought me up a few levels, and then I was finally able to go do our infiltrating Silverhole quest. After spending a little bit of time making sure I line up correctly, I managed to make my way over there pretty successfully. And after doing that pretty successfully, I was able to go back to Ravenna, and I was finally high enough level to start doing a bunch of the quests around there. Now there were a couple I couldn't really do, which would include the pirate quests, the cargo quests, or the treasure chart chests, because maybe they were possible, just extremely difficult and I didn't want to spend time on that. But the whole goal was to get to level 40 before fighting Calvis, which would then also probably include Karina, so I'm not locked from doing anything around Ravenna. Now for Ravenna there's not that many more interesting details, but eventually once I get enough levels I head over to Shell Island and do some quests over there, and finally when I reached level 120 I was able to go speak to Hendrix and complete his quest. And in the settings, if you did not know, there is a toggle to switch how you dash, which is with shift. So I was really hoping I would be able to use it, but you inevitably need to use one of the arrow keys or WASD to control it with shift. So considering that was out of the picture, I didn't have much of a choice but to continue moving the way I was, or just not at all during my boss fights. And without much more to do, I decided to just continue along the storyline and make my way to Karina, who I defeated in my first try. After defeating Karina, I decided to farm her a couple more times to at least get one of her pieces of armor so I could have some more power to my attacks. And I did get one first try. It happened to be her legs. So I just rocked that and then continued to move on with the story where I got trapped in the mines. Now this is another spot in the game where I am legitimately locked and cannot fight and cannot move with anything from my hotbar. I have no choice but to use WASD here. So when I regained my gear, the challenge is back on, and well, the next destination would be fighting Calvis. Now he was a pretty tricky fight and I did defeat him in one session. However, it took me, I'm not going to count how many, I'm just going to say roughly 10 attempts. And I think I got pretty lucky because first phase was relatively easy, I could survive through it no problem. But second phase, if he ever launched his array attack, it would completely nuke my HP, and without being able to really move except for T-jump, it was just pretty much an insta-kill even with blocking and parrying. After fighting him quite a few times, I completely forgot I had some scrolls and gems I could use, so I decided to use them on my boots because I figured they'd be the most worthwhile. And I also completely forgot to equip my scimitars, so I equipped those, and just a couple of attempts later, I was finally able to defeat Calvis. Still, somehow with it being one of the leggiest runs I have ever had with Calvis, I managed to chalk up a victory out of it. Somehow I even completely did not take a damage from one of his attacks, which probably would have ended that attempt, but it didn't kill me. But I was just going to take it and move on from there. Now, one of the last moments we have hotbar locked is this part right here, where we are carrying Neviro back to the shore, and I tried, it's just hotbar locked, there's nothing you can do about it. So with that unfortunate news, I reached the eastern shore, and I don't know, I just found him here, I don't know what's going on. But for another part people might thought was actually going to be a problem, it wasn't really. You know, the whole thing where the boats are chasing you, as you can see. All you have to do is go to the side of the island facing Windrow, sail near the sailboat, and for some reason the NPCs bug out and get off of their ship. And now with the newer update, they will now drown instead of infinitely jumping, so all I had to do was get them out of their boat and then start sailing away, and they just drowned, which would also cause the boat to quote-unquote sink, which progressed the quest line. From there, I was just faced with some wolf bandits, which I defeated no problem, and then it was time to do my awakening quests. They were pretty easy and nothing that I haven't really done before, although, as everything has been, also pretty annoying. But I was able to use the camps to just reset and respawn my boat in directions I want to, and just kind of abuse that feature to get everywhere that I needed to, actually throughout this entire run, not just this part. But once I got all my meditations done, I headed straight for Othrys and made my way through the caverns, which I got a little lost for a second, but I know my way through there for the most part, so it wasn't much of a challenge either. Upon reaching the summit, I went ahead and got my awakening for an ice conjurer, and I was gonna reset to get back, except that it set me at the entrance of Othrys, so I did have to sail all the way back, which was annoying, but it was just time-consuming. That was all that really mattered about it. And after that, it was time for us to finally head to the Nimbus Sea. Now, coming into the Nimbus Sea, I had a plan, because from the last run, if I reset, my boat would still despawn, but now it would no longer despawn and it would spawn just like it would in the Bronze Sea, which was pretty unfortunate because I could now no longer redirect my boat towards where I need to go. So I just sailed forward, which brought me pretty close to the Forest of Masts, and I was just able to set a camp there and then move along and redock my boat in the direction of where the story wanted me to go, so I could finally get reeled in and continue the story. When getting reeled in, I defeated the pirates no problem and continued the story just as normal there as any player would, minus the movement aspect anyway. And I went to go fight Maria, and I defeated her first phase no problem, which I will show you here in a minute, but her second phase did kill me once or twice, and I just set a camp right outside of her ship, which apparently you can do if you're struggling on her, so I do suggest you doing this if you're having problems. But the same attempt I ended up doing that, I also managed to defeat her, so it was pretty pointless for me, but it's still something I think you guys should do if you're having problems with her. But anyway, I'm just going to show you both phases of the Maria fight, and then we'll continue on. She was a tougher fight, but still honestly not that bad, and where I fought her on second phase, I don't really know if that's considered a cheese or not. That's just kind of where and how I've always fought her. But if it is, I guess kind of my bad. I didn't want to cheese her exactly, but she was still able to hit me, so I don't think it was that much of a cheese. But anyway, after that I headed my way to Sameria and talked to the Empress. There wasn't too much going on there other than it taking me a year to travel across the entire island, and then it was time for me to head to Port Mistral. Now, there isn't too much more to the challenge after this point because the challenge ends when I finish the story. And well, it's about done. The last posing challenges with this run was just landing at my boat to reach there, and then when I got there, this is the final part where I am hotbar locked. It's when I'm carrying the Samarian soldier. So unfortunately I am using WASD there again, but it's the last time, and then it's just angling my boat to get back to the island. Once I get back, I travel across the desert very slowly once again to go speak to the Empress and meet everyone else, and then we talk to our friends, and that's the end of the challenge. That's it. After 23.9 hours, I am finally done with this run, and you guys should never attempt this in your life.